Are you changing the way that you're thinking of flying your aircraft over the next few days and weeks as a result of the risk that exists out there of a conflict in Europe?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've faced many of these situations in the past. We've got a similar situation going on right now in Africa, at least from our perspective. We'll adapt. It's not new, so right now we are still serving the Ukraine, and we're watching it every hour, and we'll adapt when and if necessary.
Ben, let's turn our attention, therefore, to what you are going to do next with the business. I think the market was a little surprised today that you were so forthright in your view that it was time to step up and look at options to raise money to repay some of the aid that you have received. Why is now the right time? We're not fully out of the pandemic. We've got a geopolitical story that is rearing its head as well. Why is now the right time to start thinking about that capital raise?
Well, with our group, we've been through 2 years of very difficult trading. However, last year we started to see things turn around. So first off, in June, when Europe eased restrictions for Americans coming into Europe, we saw pent-up demand. We were very pleased with that. And then finally, when the U.S. reciprocated in November, we actually reached 90% of our 2019 capacity over the holiday period. This is coming off of a very heavy medium haul demand during the summer. So we've been pleasantly surprised at how quickly the market comes back when borders are open, and every week now we're seeing an easing of restrictions in some of our main markets. So we are being a little more optimistic and aggressive with the capacity we're planning for next year, this year, especially in the third quarter. So we feel it's a good time. We've got some decent momentum. You saw our results today. We outperformed the consensus. So yes, we're more optimistic than I'd say we would have been when the Omicron variant was first announced.
Just in terms of where you are in that process, though, are you leaning in any particular direction in terms of the best way to do that? What are you being advised?
Well, look, our assumption right now is that Asia will remain closed at least for the next few quarters. So we've taken that assumption. We're looking at how we can redeploy our capacity. There is a lot less capacity, or what I could say, there's a lot less airplanes, a lot fewer airplanes that used to fly the transatlantic than before. American Airlines has pulled out a big part of their wide-body fleet. We have Norwegian that's gone bankrupt. We have other carriers that are much weaker. So we see a nice opening for us to redeploy some capacity on the transatlantic. Paris is a big leisure market, so we're not as affected by business traffic. So we think the timing is right to try to get into perhaps the rights issue or something along those lines. I mean, the timing is not too bad.
I've been listening to what the low-cost carriers have been saying. They are clearly itching to put a lot of capacity back into Europe. How are you going to manage your approach to Europe, given the fact that they have that capacity? They've got new aircraft coming in, the likes of Ryanair, EasyJet, certainly looking at this. How are you thinking about how you're going to manage capacity in Europe, particularly as we approach the summer?
Well, we've got two very powerful intercontinental hubs. We have, I would say, the most efficient hub in Europe in Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, that has been optimized over the last 40 years. So we've got a lot of experience in connecting customers. That airport is saturated, so there are no slots. So the ability for low-cost carriers to increase capacity is not available at Amsterdam. So we will continue to refine our operation there. And because we have a diversified network, we can move flying around, as I just mentioned. And also Amsterdam, our operation with KLM, are the size of our business cabins relatively small in Europe, so we're not as exposed as, say, British Airways or Lufthansa. And then in Paris, as I just mentioned, France is the largest inbound tourist market in the world. We have Orly Airport for local traffic. Again, here Orly Airport is saturated. So low-cost carriers that would like to increase capacity into Paris cannot do so at Orly. And at Charles de Gaulle, our main airport in Paris, it is a very expensive airport to operate out of. And we've seen limited interest on the part of the low-cost carriers. But I think I'd say the most valuable and important change that we now have available is we do have a low-cost arm called Transavia. It had heavy limitations on how we could operate this unit in the past because of restrictive pilot, union elements within the deals. We managed to lift all those restrictions, so we now have a low-cost unit that can really help us fend off some of this low-cost aggression.
Just in 30 seconds, Ben, any issues with labour, any issues with bringing pilots back, any shortages?
Well, look, we are hiring for Q3. There's no lack of demand. There's no shortage of demand to come work at KLM and Air France. We do have some of the best opportunities in Europe, so we don't foresee having any issues in filling the opportunities that we need. So no, we'll be geared up to meet any levels of demand for the summer.